Hey JB, we're over a small plane that had to put down an emergency situation, and where it ended up is a pond. You can see the tail number N84423. It's a small plane, it's registered locally, and you can see it almost made it out of the pond, but it couldn't quite do it, and it kind of hit, and now it's half submerged in the water. Right now, we don't know of any injuries in a flight like this, though it doesn't look really severe, but anytime you put a plane down where you're not supposed to, that's a pretty big deal. Right now, sheriff detectives and deputies are walking around the outside of the area, really just trying to figure out what's going on here and get a lay of the land. But again, I'll move the camera out wider and show you this area. Now, this is an area with a lot of good areas to put a plane down. You can see the empty field. And that's usually what you're looking for. When you run into engine problems, you're always scanning the horizon for places to put down your aircraft. Now, in this case, this is kind of confusing because with all the good areas, this is probably the one bad area out here where there's some water and trees. But this is where they put it down. But again, anytime you put it down and you can walk away from a crash, that's a good thing. And this plane is now in the water. And again, we're not sure of any injuries at this point. But again, you can see oil kind of sheening off, and that's from the engine with the water. That's what happens. But again, you see, again, I'll move the camera out wide and show you there's plenty of areas to put down a plane, and I'm sure that's what he was hoping for. But you never know when things come, push comes to shove, and you have to put a plane down. You're just going to want to be as safe as you can. But again, you see them out in this area looking into the water, and it's tough to see. We don't see a lot of areas where the plane might have hit. A lot of times we can follow the path and maybe see some skid marks or tread marks, but in this case we really don't. And the oil's now starting to just float out of the plane. As we come around, you're going to see a sheen from the plane. And again, this plane, emergency landing, and again, it's too early to tell. The FAA will come through and take a look and figure out what happened and what caused this crash. But the plane doesn't look too bad, but again, the plane is in water, and that's never a good thing. But again, you see as we come around the oil sheen from the engine, the oil leaking in and the fuel leaking into this small pond out in a field in the Plant City area. Now, there's a couple airports that were near, but we don't know. I wasn't able to look on Flight Tracker to see where this plane was from and where it was going. But Lakeland South Airport is a grass strip right near here. Lakeland Regional is probably about 5 miles, and Plant City a little over 4 miles from here. So there were 3 airports when in a pretty close area, and this is a heavily flown area over this part because we have so many small airports in the area. But again, the plane didn't really land where they wanted it to land, and it's now right here in the water. And you can see the wingtip down in the water, and a lot of the plane and the wheels are now sunk in the mud. You know, I'll zoom in real close and show you the prop. It looks like it's in okay shape, not really bent or broken, but you can see the whole front of the plane is kind of banged in, and you see water on it. So it looks like it may have made it out of the pond and then rolled back in. It's really tough to tell at this point. We're just guessing as we fly around, just from the shape of the airplane and where the airplane's actually in this part of the pond. And you can see the tail, if you look, it's kind of bent a little. So this had a hard landing. So that's what we're looking at now. Hillsborough Sheriff on scene along with another person. And again, we don't know the extent of injuries in this plane crash. We do know that it was set down, but again, we don't know the details behind it. But again, this is an area where, if I move the camera wide and show you, plenty of areas to put the plane down, and you can very easily land in these open fields. This is kind of the one area you don't want to be. You also don't want to be over here where the houses are, so they did a good job missing houses, but not a real great job missing the land, and now you're in the water. So again, the FAA will come out here, do their investigation. Somebody will have to come and tow this plane out because they won't leave it. But again, we don't know the extent of injuries. So JB, I'll go ahead and send it back to you, but we're over this plane that put down in a good area, but kind of a bad spot where they ended up in the water. And again, not sure of any injuries, and it's a small plane right here in the water. I'll throw it back to you, JB. Yes, I can do that for you. Hey, Linda, do we know any information? Is there any uh, info on the pilot or anybody on board? I haven't been able to check my email. Okay, John texted something out. Let me see if... Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. Let me come back around and I'll do as soon as we pass these trees, and I'll do the look live. Okay, Linda, I'm going to start as soon as we get around this batch of trees, and we'll be good. Yep. Okay, Linda, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. We're on the scene of a small plane crash. It crashed into a lake out here in Plant City. Hillsborough County Sheriff is on scene. You can see the plane right in the edge of the pond. What we've been told is there were 2 people on board. The plane experienced engine problems, and they had to look for a place to put it down, and it ended up here at the edge of this pond. Now, both people inside are okay, so there's no injuries. But again, the plane is in the side of the water. I'm going to move the camera out wide and show you. This is an area that you would look for when you go to land a plane, because there's plenty of grass places to put the plane down. Somehow it ended up in the corner of this pond, and the good news is the 2 people on board were able to walk away. The FAA will now come to the scene to investigate the accident, to figure out what went wrong with the engine and why the plane crashed. In Eagle 8 HD, Paul Lamison, 8 on your side. The one in Crystal River or Apollo Beach? Okay, I didn't know manatees hung out up there. I know they hang out in Crystal River in the spring,